So what is your heritage? Was there a strong, like, cultural community for you in Chicago?
Yeah, both of my family's Mexican. I was the firstborn here in the United States, so it was a very strong connection to, the Mexican community. But at the same time, with immigrant parents, they're like trying to prove a point. So it's like, you're American.
Yeah.
So it was that too.
Okay. So did you guys speak a lot of Spanish in the house growing up?
Yeah,
or?
Spanish was in the house, English was outside the house.
Okay. And so did you start to learn English when you went to school?
Yeah, so for a bit, I didn't speak English very well, so I had to go to night school with them, and then watch a lot of PBS to catch up.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So did you learn primarily through, like, going to those classes with your parents?
I think I went to a couple other classes, but honestly, it was more PBS than anything else, because it ran 24 hours a day, and it was in clear English, so you could understand, you could follow through with it pretty well.
And so do you have other siblings that were born later in the United States?
Yeah, I have a younger sister who was born a bit later, but she's mostly all English.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, but does she still speak some Spanish with your family?
She tries, but it doesn't make sense. It's very broken.
Oh,
so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, how are you and your sister close? Did you have?
We have a 7-year difference, so we're not terribly close, but we definitely check in on each other once in a while.
Okay. Yeah. And so, what are a few like memorable times from your childhood, would you say? Or things that were memorable from your childhood in Chicago?
That's tough. Okay. I like condense it. I think going to school for the first time, and this was during the time where they would ask you, like, do you speak Spanish or do you speak English? Mm-hmm. And then they would separate you if you said, well, I speak Spanish. So I would lie and I said I spoke English, and I would misspell my name every time because the I and the E always sound different. Like when you translate it, it sounds the same, so I would mess up my last name every time. But I would figure it out eventually. So it was during that time, and so it was kind of a struggle I think, for my parents to tell the teachers to be like, hey, she needs to be learning English, that she needs to be in this class. And then the teachers who, it's a public school, they have a lot of kids, and it's like, we can't be teaching one person that whole time. So that definitely stuck with me through a lot of school. Let's see, I think the other one, I'm a huge base.
There was a negative connotation to saying that you knew Spanish in school.
Yeah, because it was, like I said, when you go to public school, a lot of teachers don't want to be dealing with, if you're not going to understand me, I'm not going to start with you at base 0. I have to, there's a whole bunch of other kids. So there is a negativity to it. And so when you're a kid, you're more like, I'll just try to control my accent as much as I can. I'll, make sure I don't make any funny sounds. And you try to keep it at that. Now it's different because it's like, everybody wants their kids to learn Spanish. And so when you come to work, I think in Chicago, it's like every job application that you fill out is going to say, if you speak Spanish, we want you, right? It's almost a given. Like if your last name is Hernandez or Martinez or something, they're like, all right, they speak Spanish, bring them in, right? And they're let down when that person doesn't speak Spanish, and then they're surprised. It's like, well, you kind of frowned upon it when we were in school, and now we can't speak it.
Yeah. So,
because when you were in school, it was like, we don't know what you're saying, you have to speak English. When you're in the workforce, it's like, do you speak Spanish and can you come help us out? And so when you're here, in Cincinnati, it's completely different. It's like, oh my God, you speak Spanish? Come over here, say something weird. And it's like, I'm not a clown for you. It's just, but if you need help translating, I'll be there. So it's very different. Like when you're growing up, it's almost frowned upon. And then when you grow up, it's like, they want it. That's what they want.
Yeah.
So it's very weird.
Do you almost feel like in the workforce, it's more of a spectacle sometimes that you speak Spanish? Like it's so unusual that people like make note of that and that's what they associate with you? Or what's your experience like in the workforce knowing Spanish? Or being identified as someone who speaks Spanish?
Okay. That one's, okay. I work for the county, so this is going to be a very correct question. It can be a little frustrating, I think, when people say, oh, you speak Spanish, so they make up certain things in their mind about you, certain misconceptions. And, we all do when we first meet someone. But I'll give you guys an example. The first time that, when you're going out as a field officer, so you're going to go check on houses, right? You have to have a radio call signal. And the dispatcher has to know that that's who you, like, this number. So, for example, if my radio is 6 Henry something, they're going to know that this 6 Henry is attached to me, right? So you have a pre-ID and everything. And they'll ask you, like, over the phone, when you set this up, they'll say, do you have any allergies? So that they know in case you don't have your EpiPen to bring an EpiPen. Do you what's your site? And one of the questions that they ask is, do you speak any other languages? And so I said, yes, I speak Spanish. And they said, oh, perfect, because we only have like 4 of you in the county, or like in the district. And I was like, oh, okay, great. They're like, so we'll call you if you're out in the field. If we need a Spanish speaker, we'll call you.
Mm-hmm.
And so in that case, it comes out very helpful, because the last thing you want is somebody getting hurt because they're not understanding what another person's saying to them.
Mm-hmm.
But in the other case where you're just doing office work, it's like, oh, you speak Spanish? So where are you from? "Oh, I'm from Chicago. Like, that's where I'm from. You know? It's like, that's where I'm from. Or you get stuff like, oh, you should have, can I ask you how to say a couple things before I go to Mexico on vacation? Or